Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Ugh.
What's wrong now?
I'm a little depressed.
What are you depressed about? You're not depressed.
Or resentful.
About what?
Well, Christmas gets, 7,000 Christmas songs. Okay, now we're knocking on the door of New Year's, and they got one song.
They might have two.
No, they got one.
New Year's
Name the
Day.
second one.
New Year's Day by U2? No.
Oh, well, now you're dipping into rock and roll. I'm saying Old Lang Syne or whatever that is.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one.
Okay, there's really one. I mean, who voted on that? Why didn't they split it like 7,000, 3,500 for New Year's? And then what about Halloween? And what's the big deal
Halloween
about
gets
New Year's?
short.
Yeah, they get
really
nothing.
shorted. They get nothing music-wise. It's definitely Christmas. In fact, I think they start playing Christmas music in August.
Oh,
I know they're starting on the Christmas displays in August.
Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
It's one of my
Nuts.
favorite thing about the flip of the year is that we're done with that. We're back to classic
Right,
rock.
man. So Christmas is over.
Christmas is over. Whew. We made it.
Done.
Hey, did you make it?
Done. Absolutely.
How did you do with your parties and all the stresses of the holiday and the perception that alcohol makes it all tick?
I don't have a lot of stress because I have very minimal expectations.
Yeah, you
I
said
think,
that.
I think
Yeah.
the higher the expectations, the more the stress.
Yeah.
And I use it as a time to just sit back and enjoy. I go to parties and hey, I did some parties and I hit and ran. Just that's my strategy.
Right.
But I sat, a couple parties I just hung around a little bit, especially family parties.
Right.
Especially when I'm hosting my kids and stuff at my house.
It's like I'm going to bed.
Yeah, it's hard to hit and
good.
run.
Thanks
right?
for coming.
But I don't need to be the star of the show.
Right.
I just sit back and I actually enjoy just watching, especially, kids are getting older and, they're teenagers and my daughter's in her 20s and now married. I mean, I just sit back.
Right.
I'm on the bus. I'm not the driver anymore. Thank God.
Isn't that great?
Oh, it's wonderful.
But it's so
I
funny
love it.
because today...
So fulfilling.
Yeah, today's a New Year's special.
Happy New Year's, man.
Yeah, right? And
Happy 2023.
theoretically, what if you're listening to this podcast in 2026?
Well, still. Happy 2023.
Yeah.
I hope it's a good year.
So, and the thing is, good year. What makes it so special to have a good year? January 1st, I mean, frankly, it's just a day. Now, that being said, I was never like that. January 1st was my, okay, I'm going to change. My life is going to change on January 1st. I'm going to, first and foremost, and this is honest, I used to say, all right, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to get healthy. Those were kind of those were the three main mantras that I had. And I'll tell you, for 46 years, from 13 to 59, that didn't work out well for me. I was off track by January 2nd, sometimes January 1st.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm still programmed. For 30 years, whatever. My whole life, I'm programmed for business, right? So as soon as I think of January 1st, I think a new fiscal year, right? New fiscal year. Now we just spent the last 3 or 4 months spending a shit ton of money flying around, all the consultants, right, to get these business plans together, to analyze the prior year and get ready and plan for the upcoming year. And January 1st, it's upcoming year. Now you're out of the gate fresh. And what'd you do for me lately, right? How are we going to deliver in this new year, right? So that's kind of one set of brain. And then I'm like you, I look at the personal, right? Change gears, right? And lately, the last quite number of years, I start looking at the personal, right? So describe to me one or two January 1sts, like when you were drinking, when you were actively drinking.
Yeah. That's,
in fact, wait, time out.
Yeah.
And I swear we should have a hot mic like prior episodes. Tell me the story you just told me before we got on about one of your January 1st. It's one of the best stories I have ever heard.
It's short.
In fact, it is the best story I ever heard.
It's short and it's sweet, and I know it complete. I remember like it was yesterday, or at least I remember the bookends of it. But just real briefly, I went to a New Year's Eve party at the little Holiday Inn. You know, we had 3 or 4 rooms, and it was like a scene out of a Hollywood, nightclub basement. Bowls of pills, piles of cocaine, and so I got there.
Like Scarface.
Yeah. So I got there early, right? Because you don't want to miss out on the party. I knew what was coming.
Right.
So I got there like at 5 or 6 o'clock for, the New Year's celebration. Well, we had an ice storm that night and decided that maybe we couldn't go home that night. Short and skinny.
I understand that.
I went to a New Year's Eve party. You know when I got home?
When?
January 10th.
Dude, that, I'm telling you, I will not forget that story.
Now, mind you, I was single, or let's put it this way: if I was married, I was then
you
single.
were going to be single.
That's right. But
Dude,
yeah,
that is crazy.
January 10th. Yeah.
So I was just sharing that there's a guy who I know and you know, and he was sharing a story where he went out for a business lunch around the holidays, right by Chicago O'Hare. He went out for a business lunch, right? He had a couple cocktails. Next thing you know, he's 4 days later, he's in Arizona. He had no idea how he got there. No memory of anything.
Have you ever ended up in another city? I've never done that.
No.
That's classic right there.
I mean, I've done some crazy stuff, but nothing like that. That's amazing.
So funny stuff. It sounds like, it's fun.
Right, but that's the rearview mirror, man. That doesn't happen for us today in sobriety.
And to answer your question, what were my January 1st like? They were full of remorse, full of regret, full of anxiety, because I still do take the break in the year and reflect on the year prior and look at the year ahead. I still do that.
Did you do that
day.
when you were drinking?
Sure, I did. It was just a very short process that was filled with frustration.
Not much going on, right?
I mean, it's like, really, what's going to change here? And I'd go with all the fervor in me to get to make a change, and it was just for naught.
Yeah. So when I was drinking, I mean, there was a period of time in my life, like the last 5 years, I was drinking. I mean, I was probably sober 95% of the time. I mean, I was in pain and I was dry and all those fun words, but that 5%, that's still, I mean, I was playing the game, what hospital am I going to next and whatever. But what I noticed about January 1st, so I'm just trying to say New Year's Eve, I've probably been sober for 20 New Year's Eves. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's for rookies.
It's
right?
a rookie holiday.
Tuesday afternoon when it's cloudy, that's for the real drinkers, right?
Right.
But my word that I would attribute to all my January 1st while I was drinking is survival. I just looked down, I'm like, hey, I survived another year because I knew I was in pain. I knew I hated myself, all that painful, heavy stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I survived. Right. I lived to live another year. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want this, man. This is not what, I mean, so it was not a happy time for me. There was no bells and whistles, no little flutes or, party puffers or whatever, party poppers. Right. No. Party puffers. But, okay, so let's switch gears and talk about sobriety. Right?
Yeah, right.
So you've been sober several years, so have I. So we've done a couple New Year's sober. So talk to me about how you look at the New Year and New Year's Day. What's your game plan today for New Year's?
Wow. That's a loaded question because for me it was a transformation.
And yes, you can use PowerPoint and Excel spreadsheets if you'd like to lay it out.
Okay, I might death by PowerPoint. I would say that now, well, in sobriety, early sobriety, I was very anxious as the year flipped for many reasons. First of all, because even though you call it a rookie holiday, I still participated because it was just a Tuesday, as you said, or whatever day it fell on the calendar. And so, but there was a lot of anxiety in my early days about New Year's because it was so ingrained in me that, the history of all the emotion of it. But that's changed over the course of time. And now for me, it's just another day. It's just another day. Every day could be January 1st. Every day could be October 3rd. It doesn't matter to me. what I've got in front of me is just today. That's the big transformation for me. Now I still go on my little respite down to Florida, and I reflect on the year before, and I make plans for the year ahead. I still do that. It's a very important part of me. I take a break. I listen to some music. I'll take some notes. I'm not trying to master my year ahead of me, but what I'm trying to do is point the ship in the right direction, so that the conclusion is that by December 31st of this coming year, I've at least advanced in the way I want to go. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And kind of, I mean, I'm right in the same boat with you. I kind of look at, I mean, I definitely align with that. It's just another day. I really get that. Mm-hmm. Just like, but I also, I mean, maybe it's the business in me, right? Or maybe it's the results oriented, or maybe it's performance oriented, or maybe it's just moreism, right? Mm-hmm. But so I look at it almost like a scorecard. Mm-hmm. And what really hit me, right? Again, for many years, there was no scorecard. It was just survival. Mm-hmm. It was, I lived to hit another year. Mm-hmm. So, I started getting sober in 2014, right? And then 15 and 16 and 17. And again, I intentionally laid low because I wanted to build my sober foundation deep and wide. Mm-hmm. I knew I laid low. I wasn't really trying to accomplish anything. All I was trying to do is learn sobriety. Let my sobriety, I went to a shit ton of meetings, did all kinds of stuff in sobriety, because there's nothing else I would get in life if I didn't have sobriety.
Sure.
Look at January 6th, AA 24-hour reading, right? That was how I was living. And then I noticed in 2019, when I did my year-end analysis, when I looked at my scorecard, 2019, without a doubt, and yeah, it's subjective, but I got some pretty concrete objective things to support that subjectivity, if that made any sense.
That was a big sentence.
I know, but 2019 was the best year of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt, with every fiber in me, it was the best year of my life.
Why?
Well, because I accomplished things that were according to I would say the number one reason is my new purpose was really identified and got in gear. And I started delivering on that purpose, and it was very noticeable.
How did you define?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. How did you get a grasp of your purpose, right? Because I spent a lot of time going, I don't know what my purpose is. My purpose before was to drink, to drug, to survive, as you said. Now I've got that out of my life, and I'm trying to find my purpose in my early days of sobriety. How did you define your purpose? What happened? What transpired? Was it an exercise or an epiphany?
No, it was definitely, it was hard work. So here's how I got my purpose is I committed to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, my purpose became taking care of Glenn. Glenn's got to be sober. Mm-hmm. That's number one purpose. And that's the number one important thing in my life. Mm-hmm. Secondly, what this program taught me, and this is off the cuff, we don't have any notes here, but the second thing it taught me is, step 2, step 3, surrender to a higher power. God as I understand him. I spent a lot of time figuring out God as I understand him. And I really made some strides with that, seeking and searching in 2019. I led a men's group at church, and man, we just learned together. A bunch of blind guys trying to figure out, I hadn't opened up a Bible in 30 years, and that didn't matter, right? So that was a key one. And then step 12, right? I mean, I live the program, and that's my roadmap today. And step 12 is serving others. Mm-hmm. And that's where my serving really got into gear in many different ways, which helped me get out of myself.
And so then it wasn't that you defined your purpose and tried to fit yourself into that purpose. It's that purpose unfolded for you, and now you're fueling that purpose. It feels right. It's your purpose. Am I saying that the right way?
Yeah, and parts of my purpose, like with the whole, what's God's will, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, my God doesn't care if I have a turkey sandwich or ham sandwich, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't care what kind of job I have as long as my character defects are in control and I'm doing my job the right way. He could care less if I'm flipping burgers or, building walls. Mm-hmm. I really believe that, but I think the foundation for living is can be in any quote unquote job, right? So, I really started learning. I had to unlearn all the religious bullshit I grew up with, and I had to learn a different way of looking at a higher power, and I call my higher power God. I had to learn a different way of looking at God, and my God wants to have a relationship with me today. He doesn't want to judge me. He doesn't want to spank me. I have specific things that I've learned. He wants to forgive me. He wants to embrace me, man. He values that I want to spend time with him in morning meditation. So a lot of a lot of things in 2019, a lot of things really kicked in gear for me.
Well, I think what the irony is that you're a planner, right? You've got this business sense about you. You look at the year, you lay out goals and objectives. So
none of this stuff was planned.
Well, check this out. 2019. Okay, you come to the end of the year and you say, "Man, that was the best year of my life." Now I'm going to plan for 2020. Guess what? What happened in 2020?
Here's a key part of 19 is, this is really valuable. In 2019, I remember like it was yesterday. It was September. I was frustrated as can be with my life and where I was in my life, and I'm trying. And I remember telling myself over and over, "I'm sober." Early, my morning meditations for weeks before September. I remember saying, "It should be better." I'm trying so hard. I'm doing the right things. I know I'm living right. I'm taking the action steps. I'm doing all the right stuff, and yet it just isn't cool. I'm not getting what I should feel. I'm not getting the feelings, and I was really frustrated. And in one of my morning meditations, this is going to sound weird, but one of my morning meditations in September of 2019, I said, "God, this ain't right. I'm trying really hard here. And I'm getting chills because of the impact it had on me. I'm like, dude, this ain't fair. I'm trying really hard. Help me." And in that moment, it was crazy. In that moment, it was like I had a tapestry. And the back of a tapestry, right? It's all the threads and cut and knots and shit that didn't figure out. Yeah, right. It's ugly, right? And in that moment, in that period of meditation, it was like God turned the tapestry over, right? And he allowed me to see what he and I were building for 2019. And I was like, wow. And like 10 things really were mapped out on that tapestry that I could see very clearly. And I said, okay, I get it. And then 4 minutes later, the tapestry was turned over. I'm back to doing the action steps that I wasn't feeling good about. But it was really cool. And since then, so 2020
the world
beat 2019.
But yet it was crazy because everything you planned on for 2020 at January 2nd, 1st, when you're putting your plans together, all of a sudden the world shut down.
That's the big joke because in business, all the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that are spent on the 3-year business plan and the 5-year business plan.
All went out the window.
And it was a joke. And all the smart people who spent all that money, and hey, I spend the money too. But, all the smart people, all the consultants, right? They're building all these plans. And look what happened, right? But what happened for 2020, again, living my purpose. Number one, I had extra time to spend more time building my relationship with God. Secondly, is my family had a lot more opportunity to serve my family because they were going through some shit, right? They were going through adjustments and shit. Sure. And then step 12 is you and I immediately were like, how are we going to serve, right? Meetings are closed down. The next day I set up this conference call with half the people didn't even know how to do on how to do a 7 a.m. meeting via conference call. And then a couple of days later we switched to Zoom. And then you have a passion for newcomers, and 6 p.m. you light up the 6 p.m. Zoom newcomer meeting, which is still running today. It has 40, 50 people on every single night, right? So, that's what we did in 2020 really, great. That beat 19.
Amazing, because most people will look back on their calendar and say 2020 was the worst year of my life.
And it was the best year of my life.
It, right?
Because I was living my purpose.
I thought 2019 was the best year of your life.
Until 2020.
All right, let's forward.
2021 blew away 2019 and 20.
Wow.
And part of that, again, I live in my purpose. Yeah. It's my relationship with God and the stuff I do in that swimming pool and serving others. And then it's what I'm doing for my family. And then Step 12, what am I doing for other people, other alcoholics, right? We kicked off I think, right? We kicked off Sober.Coffee in 2021. That was another one of those things. And things changed for me business-wise and really started to change and adjust. I went through a period of unknown and unrest and, but hey, I stayed sober and just kept doing the next right thing. And then came along 2022.
Right.
And now, without a doubt, and I can list 18 things that have happened in 2022 that are miracles. I was father of the bride. And if you want to go back, listen to the Wedding Bells episode. That in alone would have made my year. Yeah. And I have 18 or 20 things like that. I got through shoulder surgery this year.
Wait, let's go back to the bride. You weren't even on speaking terms. And
no, she wrote me 8 years ago. She wrote me off. I'll never speak to you again.
It's incredible.
Go back and listen to that episode. That in itself for 2022 would make my year. Right. But I got like 18 situations. I got through shoulders. I can keep going. Right? And what's even amazing now is now we got 2023.
Right.
So 2022, I just don't even know what to do. I'm out over my skis. I exceed expectations. It's kind of a joke when I'm not the driver, right? And I let God be in the driver's seat. I'm amazed at what's accomplished.
Right.
My ego goes to zero because I thought I was the smartest guy in the room, and yet, I have a very finite mind. We have finite minds, but when you hook into a superpower, a higher power, what I call my superpower, who knows what you can do.
Right.
And I'm living that right now. Stuff's happening for me right now. I'm involved in projects and serving my family. I got a son going to school overseas and plugging in, serving him, and service is kind of an underline. So I cannot wait for 2023.
Let me put you on the spot.
Yep.
So you've got purpose. You've got a bounce in your step.
Yep.
You're optimistic. You're realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to me. I want you to tell me because I don't think I'm there with my purpose. I think some of it makes sense what's going on the other side of the tapestry, but I'm seeing a lot of the undergird right now.
Mm-hmm. That's the day-to-day stuff.
So how do you hone in? You've honed into your purpose. What do you tell me? How do I hone into my purpose?
I think it's an action, not a thinking.
Okay.
So one of the things I did when I was in my 4-month program in 2014, I did a book, Purpose Driven Life.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, it's a 40-day book, and 40-week book. I don't know.
40 weeks.
Yeah, 40 weeks. I did it in 40 days because I was in.
You're an overachiever.
Well, no, I had nothing else to do. I'm in rehab for 30 days. A lot of free time. I don't play basketball. I hate the gym. So, I didn't do all that. I went back to my room and I did Purpose Driven Life, right? And I did one a day, and I did it religiously. I wrote it all out in a notebook, just like you love, right? And so that's an activity, right? I got in the pool, right? But one of the things, and actually we're kicking off a small micro group, of guys who
and gals,
that want to really make 2023 living for their purpose in 2023. And it's not going to be life-changing. We're picking one or two areas of our life that we either have wanted to do, have thought about doing, haven't done, need to improve, and we're going to do it in a group setting. We're going to have meetings. We're going to have specific game plans, action plans. We're going to have mentors, mentees, accountability, guardrails, all that stuff.
So
right?
what the light bulb just went off for me. So it's not figure out my purpose. It's figure out how to live in the direction you want to go, and your purpose will unfold in front of you. Am I saying that right?
So that's exactly what happened for me, but I picked AA as my roadmap.
Right.
So I think you got to have a roadmap.
Right.
And there's, in my mind, there's no better roadmap than AA. And I picked AA, and I committed and surrendered to AA. I'm going to do exactly what you guys tell me to do, and you have too, right? So I think right, and hey, we have all the sayings, and sayings are cool, but it's like, don't worry about the staircase. Take the first step. Right. Take that first step. And a lot of times people aren't in action. I listened to a guy yesterday. It was Dr. Henry Cloud. I love that dude from California.
We've got a couple links in the resource.
Yeah, smart dude. He's like, you know what? Everybody wants to lose weight, right? And everybody's got the plan in their head, and I'm going to do all this. He's like, look, go out today and walk to the end of the block and back. He goes, when people do that and get in action, he goes, do 2 push-ups. He goes, all the time when people say, oh, I went out and did 1 push-up, and all of a sudden, I felt good, and I did 7. I went to do 1, and I did 7, right? So you have to get started. And in my mind, previously, I'm really in the getting started mode right now, and I don't have it all figured out.
And it's not even, right.
But before, I had to buy the software program, and I needed a new notebook, and I probably needed a new computer, and I needed to paint my office, and I need a new car, right? And I've got to have all this shit. Then I'm so tired of doing all the crap. I didn't start.
Right.
So just get out there and start.
Oh, I love
go
it.
to one. If you're not into AA, you don't understand the roadmap. Go to one meeting.
Right.
Do something. Go to one church service. Go do one prayer. You don't have to have this prayer and meditation program all set up and I got to get in the right feeling and the right zone.
That's so me.
Oh,
Right.
I'm telling you, just today, right? I'm moving my office to another office, and the first thing I'm thinking, I got to set that office up right.
Yeah.
I can't work in there and be productive until I get the new desk that I want to build, and I want to build it this size, and then I'm going to put these pictures in there, and then I got to get a new computer, and then I need 7 monitors, and that's such horseshit.
In the meantime, life is just driving by you like you're in the slow lane.
Yeah. You know what? Get out there and do 1 push-up. Go to 1 meeting. Read 1 page of the big book. Have 1 conversation with another alcoholic. That's just what I think.
Make every day January 1st. Glenn, great stuff.
I love
man.
January 1st, man. I'm fine. Can you tell I'm excited?
Just a little bit.
Welcome 2023.
And he's on decaf. Welcome 2023. We hope you guys enjoy the ride.
But you know what? I can't wait for December 31st because I know what I've got planned. I know, hey, I'm just going to stay in the same program, the same pool, and I'm just going to swim harder.
Love it.
I'm just going to swim harder, and I can't wait for 2024.
You're the best, man.
I love living it with you, man. I'll tell you what, my life is different and better because I'm on the sober path with you, and I value you, man. And thanks for a good 2022. You're a key part of it, and I can't wait to see what the tapestry unfolds for 2023.
Love it. Happy New Year.
Love you, brother.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.